Hi everyone, my name is Javi and I can draw, and this week, well, since it's the week of Christmas, there's not a lot of work going on and I'm just getting a little bit lazy because I have to do a lot of family things, but still I want to finish this whole character design things that I've been doing for the last few weeks, and I want to focus on faces and hair. So today, faces. Now there is a really well-known thing called the same face syndrome. A lot of artists have it, and a lot of artists try to avoid it, and it is when you draw a character in, well, or you draw all the characters and they all have the same face. It gets a little bit boring. It's like everyone notices it, you notice it, you don't like it, you don't know how to solve it. It often happens when you try to be super realistic with your characters, so you try to take care of the proportions, but the proportions you use with all characters are the same proportions, so they all end up looking the same except for, like, you know, haircut or something like that. Or even if you are like super cartoony, if you consider, like, if you ever seen Saint Seiya, you know that Seiya has a face, and then you see BTX that is by the same creator and it has the same face as Seiya, and it's like, it's a bit disappointing. So I want to focus on not doing that. So if you look at the screen, I have a few steps that I take when I try to do this, when I try to design faces for my characters in order not to end up doing this. Ironically, most of the time I have to do children's books illustration, and I do kids, and they all kind of have the same face proportions, and, well, it happens to me too. But I have these 3 steps that I wrote there up top on the screen. Oh, let's just do this. There you go. And the first thing that I focus is on the shape of the head. The shape of the head is what is going to define the rest of the head. If you think in terms of character design that we talked about last time on the last few videos, it has to do also with this silhouette and being able to identify the character just by looking at the silhouette of the character. If all the characters have the same silhouette of the face, it all becomes a little more complicated. So the more, I don't want to say exaggerated, but the more notorious that you can make the face of a character look, or the more characteristic, the easier it will become to design that face. So I added, you know, all the circles. I wanted to show you the circles. They are all the same circle, copied and pasted. I added just this. You see that I did the face of a different type of jaws to define different type of faces. And the second thing I do when I do these faces is try to focus on a certain feature. Like, you're going to look at a character and you're going to see, like, if it's a very pretty girl, you're probably going to look at the girl's eyes. If it's like, I don't know, some dude with a really big mouth or a really big nose, you're going to look at it and make it, you know, is going to be the focal point of the face and the characteristic feature that is going to define the face of this character. And so I want to do a few examples here. I'm going to do them really quick. So this is going to be some pretty girl. So yeah, she's going to have some big eyes. Now this guy has a really big, like, Superman-like jaw, and I want him to have, like, really big lips. So I want to focus on the lips. And I'm doing this because once I decide what is going to be the focal feature of the face of the character, the rest of the character is going to be a little more easier because you start working on, well, the third point, that is relative proportions. You kind of know the proportions and the distances between the features of the faces, but now that you're exaggerating certain features, you're still going to try to respect that as the most as possible, because if not, it will still look kind of silly, and you don't want that. You don't want the design of a face to be distracting, but you want it to make sense within the style that you're using. So let's keep going. I like, well, the face of the nose of this guy is going to be like this huge nose here, so I want to draw the nose first and then go from there. And I'm just being super sketchy on purpose because I don't want to waste a lot of your time. So this guy is going to have this big round nose. And remember when we were talking about character design, that we're talking about angular versus round, that usually round shapes mean friendly or good, and more angular shapes may be like, well, more edgy or more evil, or at least suspicious or something. That, you know, the more round you keep the proportions of a face, the better, you're going to have like this intensity, the idea that this person is good. If you see like Disney princesses, they all have really round, pretty faces, except maybe the case of Megara in Hercules, but she's not as good as she seems. And that is also displayed on the shapes and the angles of her facial features. So this guy is, well, just for killings, he's going to have this really small nose right here. And this guy, I have no clue, but let's just give him a wide kind of a nose. Okay, so now I see that I was a little bit too busy talking and I started with the nose on most of them, which is something that I usually do for my characters. But even then, like this character here, for example, he could have like really big eyes or he could have like really small eyes. And he's still going to be looking at his nose. In this particular case, like this guy, maybe the jaw is going to be the most prominent thing because everything else is going to be small. Like if you think about the Justice League Superman, like the cartoon, he has this big jaw and that is the focal point of his face. And you can do the same thing, like maybe the focal point is going to just be the shape of his face. And this guy, I have no clue what I'm doing with this guy, but I didn't want to do just 5. Okay, so now let's get drawing a bit. So I have the eyes of this girl. Well, let's just correct this just a bit. I'm going to do this tiny pretty nose here for the girl. Okay, so I'm just going to be drawing a bit. But you kind of know this part, right? Like you just have to respect the proportions, like even well, let's just use for example this girl that I'm drawing right now. Even though her eyes are super big and her nose is really small, you still have these laws, like for example the eyes have to start where the nose ends, and also that the mouth is going to be pretty much in the middle of the eye, and you can respect that. You can deviate a bit from it, but as long as you kind of respect them, well, you're still good. So this guy here has this huge mouth here, and let's just big wide nose. It's like even though I already did this, the focal point is still this big mouth and the wide jaw. There's going to have the ears here. But this guy has like it has this really long nose, maybe not a wide nose, maybe for the proportion of his face the nose is a bit wide. Maybe I can just make his eyes a little bit like tall like this as well. So you have to play a little bit with proportions. And also, one thing that you can do is like if you're designing a character, you kind of know what is going to be the main gesture of the character. Like if it's going to be a bad character, he's going to be having like an evil grin or something like that. So maybe you can just start designing the shapes of the faces and the proportion of the character based on that grin that the evil character is going to have. For example, you don't have to just try to design the relaxed face, but you can just go to the main gesture and see what happens. I will have to try that as well and see what goes on. Well, so this guy is really friendly. Okay, I'm going to shut up for a second and just draw and see what comes out. Okay, I'm done. These are 6 very different, very distinct faces that can belong to very different persons with very different personalities, and you just had to obey those 3 rules that I said. Let's just go through them again. our, well, head shape. Then pick a particular focus feature, and then just try to keep the proportions kinda right, kinda around the place. There's not much to say about it. Now, the next thing about this is like, once you like one of these faces, you have to start trying different expression on the faces, and then you have to start trying different angles for the faces, and sometimes it might mean that after drawing them a lot of times, you're going to start changing things that you changed from the beginning, maybe because you don't feel comfortable with the proportions that you gave the character, or maybe because you're just, well, you're just more comfortable drawing this character in one way and not the original way that you did. This is just doing character studies, it is normal, it can happen. The only thing that you have to make sure is that you don't fall on the same proportions that you try to avoid at the beginning, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean. Now look at this face. This face is just a regular cute girl kinda caricature face. It's not the most fun face that there is, but since I'm going to focus on her, I didn't want to have a face that is just too particular, because that would detract from what I'm trying to do, that is just focus on the shape of the hair. Now I'm going to show you something that I was experimenting with just as I began practicing for this video. Now what I have here is this girl's face just reproduced a few times, and I just did just this really simple shape. You can see that I did it really fast, and I said like, well, I have this shape, but what can I do with this particular shape? Because since I was focusing on silhouette, I wasn't sure that drawing a silhouette was going to already define what the hair is going to be like, what the hairstyle is going to be like. So I did this and I said like, well, how much can I experiment? And the result was this. These three are three very different particular hairstyles. I really like the three of them. They really talk about three different characters. And you know how the hair is really important for the personality of the character that you're going to be designing. So going from a shape that goes with the rest of the shape of the character, like with the clothes and everything is well, it's just part of the design. It's one accessory more, but just using this just shape as a starting point, I think that it's a very good first step. Now, I already did a video on hair once, and well, this is what I said about the technique that I usually use for drawing hair. Today we're doing 6 different heads because I wanted to focus on 6 different origin points. One is on the side of the head, the other one is in the middle of the head, then there's the other side, then there's going to be just the top of the head and let the gravity dictate the hairstyle. Then there's going to be one where the origin point is actually the hairline if you're wearing something like a ponytail. And this last one is a hairline that is going to be like in the middle of the head if you're using something like a fringe. Now on to deciding how the hair is going to flow using those arrows and wavy lines. As you will see, once you decide the origin of the hair flow, it's going to be pretty easy to figure the rest out. Like, once you decide that, there's not going to be many options left as to how to move the rest of the hair, considering where the origin point is. Once you decided how the top of the hair flows, if you want to make the hair longer, once the hair gets to below the ears, you can go anywhere you want, as long as you respect if there's any wind, or if the head is tilted, or how the gravity is going to affect the hair, because even if it's a bit wavy, it is always falling, unless the person is in movement and is going like in a motorbike or something like that, where you can use the wind and movement and you can use the hair to emphasize motion and direction. You might think that I'm choosing some boring hairstyles, but you know, this is just basics. This is for beginners, and as you grow more comfortable with this, you can go a bit crazy with hairstyles. If you don't know how to make crazy hairstyles, you know what, just search for a lot of reference. It's always useful. Thing is, that still applies. But what I didn't know when I was doing those practices was how to, from those starting points and the lines you're going to draw, how to give it volume and shape. So I think that, a few months later, I think that it's much more useful if you just start with this big shape and silhouette that is going to be part of the composition, and then focus on from where the hair is going to come from and all of that. So here I started playing around with different shapes. I had this ones, and I was like, I didn't really know what I was doing. The only thing I wanted to do with these shapes was like, well, does it kind of look good on the head? Like if it were just this opaque, just hard shape on someone's head, is like, is it stylish? Does it say something about the character? So I did this three to just play around, and I was like, well, let's add some details to see what happens. So here we go. They look like three distinct characters that respond to very distinct personalities. Like the one on the right looks more like a rock star, the one in the middle is more like a mom, and the one on the left is more like a young mom. I don't know, I'm just playing around with shapes. I don't really have to define what I want this character for, so I don't really have to decide in this particular case. Here I have like three very distinct shapes, and I started playing with them, and I kind of arrived to this conclusion just by playing around. And I had a final set of examples because I thought that maybe these styles were just too ridiculous or too elaborate or just not natural. So I did these three shapes that resemble some kind of natural falling of the hair. Maybe, the one in the middle has some short hair, but still, I kind of like what I was looking at, and I just added some details here. And you see, you can start working on the hair from that point, from the silhouette point. And it all goes back to that basic principle of character design that is focused on silhouette. But when you're thinking about hairstyle, it also applies. So, trying to focus, as I did on the video that I showed you before, on the point where the hair starts and where it all hangs from, and the gravity, of course, that is important. But first, when you're going to the hairdresser, the most important thing that the hairdresser is going to try to achieve is to give your hair some shape and form. And so focus first on that. And what you're going to do then with all the internal volumes and shapes of the hair, that comes later. But first comes silhouette, comes shape, comes and volume will come after that. At least that's what I'm thinking right now. Hair is a very complex subject because there are actually a lot of hairstyles and you have to study them all. And I didn't really know much about it because still, focus on silhouette. That's the most important thing. Then that's your starting point. Then from then you can just continue. But that's what's most important. There is not many resources about hats. I mean, there are resources like a lot of hats where you can have a lot of reference, which is super useful, but there's not a lot of instructions about how to draw hats. I found a few stuff and I've been practicing, and I want to show you what I found out on the simplest way to draw hats. Now, if you look at the screen, are you looking? Okay, good. So the first thing that I noticed when trying to draw hats, and from all the information that I got, is that first there's going to be the line where the hat is going to be on your head. Now, this is not a straight line like something like this, but it's going to be more something like this. It's going to be at an angle. First because it looks better, and second because it's probably like so you can keep your vision clear of the hat that you're wearing, so you can fit comfortably, I think. The second thing that is really important is what it's called. First is the headband, that is going to be this thing that is going, the part that is going to be most lying on your head. And then comes the crown, which is this frontal part and how it goes up. Now, since I haven't drawn many hats in my life, I don't actually have a mental image of a lot of hats, so I'm just going to improvise like regular undescripted hat. So once you have this crown and you want this to go really up, you can start working this out. Like most of the time, this is going to open this way. What I mean is that it's not going to be like a square thing like this, although there are hats like that, but sometimes it just looks better if it's, well, if it's just not just a regular hat. And then comes this part of the hat that I don't remember the name. But since I'm using a very simple perspective, there's not much work to do on it. Now I'm going to show you a different angle at a time, but the most important thing that I wanted to talk about just a bit, I'm going to correct this because I like how it looked better before. And I'm going to add some hair here. I think that the most important thing when drawing a hat is, well, the same thing that we've been discussing since we've been seeing all these things about, you know, faces and hair and everything. I think the most important thing is how the silhouette looks and how it affects the shape and how it affects the hair. So don't focus so much on being accurate about the hat, but just most like trying to have a little bit more fun with the design of the hat so it looks good. It looks good on the character that you're designing. Now what I'm also doing is that I'm drawing the hair after the hat. What matters the most is that they look good together, but since most of the effort has to go first to the hat because the hair like accommodates to whatever the hat is doing, first you draw the hat, then you draw the hair. Now I have a few examples that I've been practicing before. Take a look at this. These are for examples that, I'm sorry, I'm going to just zoom in just a bit. So these were the things that I was practicing with. I kind of like them. I was trying different things, and you know, they're different shapes in depending on the hair and depending on the hat as a combo. They do like really different combination, and they also talk about the personality of a character. Not every character is going to be wearing the same thing. So I here have some more examples in other perspective. I was trying different things, but most of the thing I'm going to show you right now what I did within this perspective so you can try it yourselves. This is going to be a very short video because there's not much to say about it, because once you understand how a hat fits, which is like the most complicated thing and the thing that I wanted to solve the most, then it just becomes kind of reference, just using reference of type of hats that you like. And since I didn't have any reference for a helmet, this looks like kind of like the He-Man character. Well, it doesn't matter. It's an awful helmet, but I wanted to try it. And I also tried this, like wearing a headband. It's not a hat, but I just wanted to try to have fun with it just a bit. So what I did on this one is pretty simple. Just to show you on another perspective, there's already a blue line here. I want the hat to come like, wait, this needs to be bigger, here. Come this way, like in this angle here. And then once I have this, I just work a bit on the headband. And then I just go up and back, like this. So up and back just a bit. Let's say that she's wearing some kind of like fedora or something. And you have this and you go like, oh, this looks really silly, doesn't it? But then I just play along. I don't want to be super accurate, but it's just like this. And it's looking a little bit better, but it's still looking a little bit silly, doesn't it? Let me just flip it around just to see. There we go. So yeah, I like how this looks. It still looks a little bit weird because she doesn't have any hair. So let's just give her a little bit of hair coming from the front of the hat. Just like this. Look, she doesn't even need to have like long hair. She can have short hair like this. But I like long-haired girls, so I'm going crazy with this. I'm going crazy with this. She has a lot of hair. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So you see, what matters about hats, that once you know it, it becomes a lot easier, is actually how it fits on the head. And then you always use the crown, like this part, as a starting point for the hat. And remember, it's not a straight line, it's going to be at an angle. If you need reference, you can just Google for reference for a lot of hats from a lot of time periods and things like that. That's pretty much it. And that's going to be it for today. I hope you really liked this video. This is a really simple, basic video, but I wanted to do it because I learned something from this. I hope you learned something too. My name is Javi and I can draw, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye! This is very Casey Neistat, right? The glasses? But they look good, right? Right? So here we have a face. Let's call this face Jenny. So here we have Jenny, and well, if you're going to draw glasses, the most important thing to know about glasses is, well, this. Is that this angle, most of the time, is going to be a straight 90-degree angle. Of course, these glasses do have a small curve on them, but you can get away with not doing the curve if you want to. I'm going to show you an example. Now, I'm not an expert on drawing glasses. I was just doing research all day to get this right. So, if we're going to use this on a straight angle, pretty much you have to draw some sort of cube around the face of your subject. Here we have Jenny. Hello, Jenny. Now, here her line of sight is going to be this one. So, I want her glasses to end around here. And I'm just going to follow the perspective of her face. I want the glasses to end around here as well. And then I'm going to use this place, that is where the, this thing about the glasses would be. I don't know the name of some of those things in English. In Spanish it's patilla, but I have no clue what the name is in English yet, doesn't matter. You just bring this line here, following this plane. And well, in this point, in this intersection, is where you draw this line, and that is pretty much where the glasses are going to be, roughly. So, you create a divide point here, in the middle of the face. So what I'm doing is like pretty simple. I'm just establishing a perspective on the face, so I can use it as a guide to draw the glasses. Now, I'm not going to use any particular model of glasses, so I'm just going to say I want this center point of the glasses to be here, so I'm just going to draw it here, and now I'm just gonna wing it, and I'm just going to make big glasses because I apparently decided that I wanted to do some really big glasses. So I just draw them here. I'm just going to draw these really big, thick frames. Keep it simple. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. And it all in perspective, being lost perspective. Then I'm going to just bring the side of the glasses here to this part. And I'm just doing some really rough, thick lines. So this is not too three-dimensional. But that's okay, because what really matters is that they look good and that you have a clear idea of where they should go in the face. So they don't look like they're off or that they're not sitting comfortably. So actually using these lines as guidelines is what makes it work. So it's not really hard to do glasses. Now as you can see here, I'm doing exactly the same thing as I was showing you. I'm just adding a little bit more volume because, well, I want it to look nice for you guys. Just a little bit more volume here, and well, let's just do this thing here. So I want to see how they look. Give me just 1 second. Come on. Oh, I like them. They look good on her. These are really nice glasses. And well, now if I just clean up a bit, they're going to look a lot better. So just give me 1 second so I can clean up the drawing. Here we go. Okay, almost ready. Oh, great! So now she looks like a girl with glasses. Now the same thing applies to other size of glasses. I just chose that I wanted that size. But if you're going to be doing like really small glasses, you're going to bring them really forward, and you're going to try to keep them around here or so. And in this particular case, since we're talking about small glasses that go in the front part of your nose, the side of the glasses are not going to be straight like in sunglasses, but they're going to be just coming down a bit. So here they come. You know, it's kind of weird to get the perspective right on this because they're not following the perspective of the face, but they're going to come down like this. So let's just do them kind of quick here because I don't want to bore you to death. And I don't know if I'm liking how this looks. Let me see. I'm gonna flip it for a second. Well, they're not the sexier glasses. Maybe we can just get them to be a little bit more interesting. But they still fit the face. That is the main problem. So basically what it matters is that you have a strong idea on the size of the glasses that you want to use, and that you also have a strong idea on where they're going to be lying in the nose, so you can, you know, pretty much decide what this line is going to go, because the farther behind they go or the higher they are in the nose, this is going to move up a bit as well. And well, it's going to look really different on the character. Of course, that you have to think what kind of character you're drawing, and what the glasses says of them, and all of that. That is a really generic example on how to draw glasses. I think that this is it. Now I want to show you other examples of practice glasses that I've been doing, because I wanted to try a certain few things. Like for example, well, most of them are really big glasses because I was a little bit obsessed with them. But I was trying this that I just shown you. I was trying these huge glasses that just fit the whole face to see how it worked. And it's that, you know, you have to know the size of the glasses that you want to use. You have to know where they're going to put it there. So you just draw the straight perspective lines. Once you have those perspective lines, you add the guideline for the nose, so you can know exactly the line that is going to follow here. And I really like this one. So, well, that's it for glasses. It's pretty easy now. What is left, the same thing that we had, so you just have to go and look for a lot of reference and just learn the style of glasses that you want, because I have no clue how to draw these ones. I had to practice them a lot. But I can see them being too hard to draw after a few practices. But well, that's going to be it for today, and that is going to be it for this week. So I will see you until next year. I know it's just a few days away, but still. Thank you so much for being with me this year. This has been a really eventful year since I started Javi Can Draw. That was on the 20th of January, I think. That was the first video. And I really liked how the channel took shape. Now, I have to be honest with you guys. I thought that the channel by this point was going to be at a moment where I would make some kind of interesting profit from it. But I kind of managed to keep my client work and the videos together. So far, the channel will go on. I have a lot of ideas for next year. There may be some big changes in the way, but I don't know. There's a lot of things to plan. So that's going to be it. I hope you finish the year the best way possible. I hope you start the year the best way possible. My name is Javi and I can draw. I'm sure that you can draw too, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!